the very question. We are really the first generation. All the first generation whose entire lives can be.
Head back to MySpace. Starting at 13.
Wow, that's a history lesson. What's this MySpace you speak of? I'll let you get one. You were next on my list.
Just saying that, like being a primary school teacher, it would not be. I mean, they should not fire her, but should give a warning, because people, like kids, they look up to teacher. Like our age, if we see our teacher drinking and partying out there, we would join them maybe. But the primary.
Once the semester's over for the recording.
But primary school, they look up to teacher, and maybe they would end up doing the same thing. So instead of firing.
So what would they end up doing? I guess is my question.
Doing as in, this is of course not acceptable for kids. Like parents.
Oh, they would right now go and do this.
Exactly. Like it's not their age to learn this all things right now, and they would start practicing in front of mirror. If my teacher can do it, why can't I?
Well, on the flip side, couldn't a parent go, that's not okay for you, but it's okay for a 28-year-old woman?
But
I have to move on unless you're going to die. I mean, no. I wasn't trying. This is not an easy issue. We're not going to solve it in a 3-minute discussion in a class. As much as we need to. This is the issue we now face, where you can immediately, someone can take a picture of you right now and post it online, and you never even know. And so it becomes this issue of, is your private life private? If we accept that this is true, that there are fraud-pond places and times, then what happens when you return from the fraud pond?
of course we judge them. I mean, even though we don't want to, but we still judge them.
Oh, then don't.
Just being honest.
Well, we'll stop.
I was gonna say, like, but what about those? Like, I agree she's a public figure, so she should behave more appropriately. But how about those people who are teachers and do things day and night and just don't get caught? I think the issue is that she actually got caught.
I mean, yeah.
But got caught what? Hugging, what is that, like a pole?
Stripper pole.
I mean, sure. I mean, her cooches.
We're not going to solve this. Okay, the classes, we can after the semester's over, y'all can all take me out and we can discuss this. You wish she was your teacher. Awesome. You have the best looking professor as it is. All right.
Oh, okay.
All right, so anyway, as we're going to see, we're wrapping up the first introductory stuff on culture. And what I'm going to try and do through this course is I can predict a lot of your responses knowing your culture. Now, I tell you, older adults are like really bothered by pictures like that. They're like, oh, I can't even believe. And I'm like, you did that kind of thing. I know
They
it.
just didn't have cameras.
Well, we had cameras.
Everywhere.
We had daguerreotypes when you had to hold for about 5 minutes.
Right, but that's the thing. It's like, now anybody can take a picture because it's like, everybody's phone, right?
It is creating real problems that anyone can take a picture, because you could, in a moment of whatever, you're really in love with some guy and you take a picture of yourself in front of a mirror and he's like, hey, I got this picture. He can forward. It is becoming a real issue that we're not teaching our kids to go, hey, I know you feel that way right now. I know you love Hello Kitty, but that tattoo is a bad move. All right, so we're going to look at socialization into a culture. So what I want to do is I want to get you to get this feel that culture is going to help us understand a lot about a person. The Greek philosopher, this always gets to go back to my good buddy Aristotle, argued that man, and by this he means people, or women as well, man and people. I'm sorry. Man and people live in cultures, that's right, and women. I live in a polis. Polis was the Greek word for, you would know this, what's the polis? City-state. It was a particular Greek organization where it was a unit that was somewhat larger than what we think of as a normal city, and it functioned like a nation. So, he's a man as the animal lives in the polis. You'll probably know this word polis from one example of it. We have the Acropolis. The Acropolis, the head of the particular, or the top point of the Athenian city-state, or you know it as another word, Metropolis. That is the mother city, Metropolis. metropolis is the technically mother city of where you're from. Now what this means for us is that humans naturally live in the organized company of other people. And y'all know this already from primates do this. When primates are born, right, so if you have a little chimpanzee born, the chimpanzee is not thrown into the woods. The chimpanzee is raised in a chimpanzee culture, chimpanzee group. So other people teach us to be human. Other people teach us the language. They teach us what clothing. They teach us what's acceptable to do when you're out with a group of friends, right? So your culture might teach you that it's okay to go out and drink. Another culture say, not okay. So we're going to look at what cultures do. So the groups teach us what they expect from us, right? So our culture teaches that it is expected that you will work. It is expected that you will do your duties. It is expected that you will behave in certain ways. Our culture tells us what's prohibited. So we learn, okay, it is not acceptable for me to show up like last class where we were discussing drugs. It's not acceptable to show up in the middle of class and do, I think we discussed 3 8-balls, a fifth of jack, and I forget what else. Oh, a couple
tabs of acid, I think.
Couple of tabs of acid and lines of coke. You know, we can't do that. That is off limits. It teaches us what will be praised and what will be punished. So our culture is going to teach us is going to start immediately teaching us lots and lots of behaviors which are going to be praised, punished, prohibited, or encouraged, right? So like in high school, what is one sport, especially for males, that is encouraged? Football, right? So you learn, right? Versus if you're in another culture, you might learn that cricket is the sport you play. Right? You don't learn that in our culture. So it appears that there's a critical period for learning your culture. This was actually really sort of surprising when I first learned this. I was like, like in language, if you're ever taking a linguistics course, they'll say it's a critical period in learning your first language. If you don't learn your first language by the age of, 6 or so, you won't. It's a critical period for learning culture. And this is sort of a mushy idea. But if you imagine feeling comfortable in your culture, that you know the rules, like you know what's acceptable behavior, right? Imagine going back to now your 6th grade, right? And you just realized that the other gender doesn't have cooties, right? But you're not sure what to do. Do y'all remember this period? And at first you're like, okay, well, like what behavior is acceptable? And you learn. You gradually learn. Imagine that is what is learning your culture. And some research with some immigrants to Hong Kong, going from Hong Kong to Canada. So this isn't the most major of studies done because Hong Kong used to be a British colony, Canada, and so it's like, okay. But when the individuals moved from Hong Kong to Canada, they could ask them questions about how comfortable they felt in the Canadian culture. So what do you think is going to be the biggest predictor of their comfort? Is it going to be the age they moved there? The amount of time they spent there? Which one do you think is going to be the biggest predictor?
Age.
Well, A be age, B be how long they lived there. What's the biggest predictor of how comfortable they feel with the Canadian culture? Let's go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, more people showed up. That's interesting. Since I said critical, oh wow, even though I said critical period. Well, actually, when you do this study, so to tell you the kinds of questions they would ask to get a feel for their comfort, would you be comfortable marrying a North American person or Chinese person? Comfortable working with typical North American? Are you comfortable working with typical North American people? I enjoy typical North American. Okay, I'm kind of perplexed about this one. Does anyone know what a typical American joke versus a typical Chinese joke would be? I have no idea what a typical Chinese joke
We
is.
tend to have more a crude sense of humor.
I don't know. For all I know, the Chinese have a crude sense of humor. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Americans are cruder than the Chinese. I mean, I have no idea. I need to find this out. Find someone from Hong Kong and go, what jokes do y'all tell? Do y'all say pull my finger? I mean, I'm just curious. I interested in having North American friends. And what they actually found was the biggest predictor was the age at immigration. So y'all don't know what those lines represent. Canadian versus Chinese, the age at immigration influenced which one they were more likely to feel. So the older they were when they immigrated, the less likely they were to adopt a Canadian point of view. Kind of intriguing. We learned this early on. And if you ever want to get a feel for the kinds of things that you just sort of adopt early on, if you ever find yourself going, well, that's just the way we do it. You know, did we discuss in this class, like, who pays? And you're like, oh, yeah, that's, you've learned that. You're like, oh, you know, we've learned. Or if I were to go, well, why do you shave your legs? And you would just go, that's what we do. Same thing. How do we socialize people? We use lots of things. We bring the full power of culture to socialize people into a particular group. The biggest one, the one that's going to be our biggest predictor we're going to discuss today, and we're going to discuss Friday, is conformity. We push conformity like there's nobody's business. Even our country does this. You want a great example of conformity? Look at your clothing. None of y'all are wearing bell bottoms. None of y'all are wearing, what else? None of y'all are wearing big straw hats. Right? You're not doing that. You're all wearing American ensemble. Well, not you. Pretty much jeans and it's probably the American ensemble, isn't it? Jeans. Jeans and a t-shirt, right? Cultures also use imitation. We encourage people to follow what their parents are doing. It's really weird when parents go, well, if someone jumped off a bridge, would you? Because as a kid, I was like, well, yeah. You know, like you would, yes, because it looked fun. We use modeling. That is, we deliberately train the kids, move them in certain positions to get them to do it. We use norming. And in norming, we're going to see the culture says this is what is expected. This is what is typical. We use reinforcements. You know, be a little sticker when you're a kid. If you do something nice, right? Oh, look. Our teacher would give us candy. Right? Hey, yes. And punishments, right? So you do something bad, you get restriction. What? Stand in the corner? Really? That is a punishment. I thought I was the only person that stand in the corner.
Stand in the corner for hours.
Oh, I had to do that too. Did you have to hold anything behind you? Yeah, we had to stand in the corner. It was so, watch the clock.
Time goes by very slow.
I know. Imagine you were in jail doing that though, and you only have a clock. Cultures declare some items illegal. So culture says you can't pursue some items no matter how delectable they are, or no matter how safe they are. Our culture says certain things are illegal, right? Like Alabama is like, apparently we really, really hate gambling machines here in Alabama. They're like, oh, they're bad. Or we hate the lottery here. You know, it's bad. It's illegal in this state. What else is some illegal things that we... Really, I'm glad that's really where y'all first went. Yes, marijuana is illegal, not just in this state, but in many others. And for the recording, it's illegal around it is still against federal law. Though I've been on record many times as saying I think that is absolutely absurd. We have various punishments that we employ to enforce our cultural norms, from arrest to jail time to fines and so forth. So this is some ways in which we socialize.